Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Quest. We are the jailbreakers for your brain. Our goal is to bring on amazing people who can free you from the prison of your own self-imposed limitations. This is part 2, yes 2, of a very special episode where I'm checking in on a few IQ Community All-Stars to whom I gave a challenge a few weeks ago. If you haven't seen part 1 of this episode, go back and check it out here. And if you haven't seen Shabnam Moharabi's episode that started it all with a real-time attempt to change lives, you can check that out here as well. And with that, let's dive right in.
If we were social scientists and conducting some kind of study, we would send them out today saying, try to implement one of these habits, and in a week, see how many of them are feeling like they were able to do it and if it had an impact on them. So maybe that's the measurable
that is amazing.
element.
Now I'm going to take it to the quest level, and I'm going to say, rewatch the episode, write down every habit or thing that you come across without exception, and implement them immediately into your life. Then, let's say 30 days from now, it takes 27 days to make a habit, right? A month from now, we will regroup and we will see where everybody is and report back, and we'll do a special episode about what you guys did, what habits you've changed, what impact it's had on your life. So if you were hoping to show up today as an anonymous person in this audience, that just went out the window.
Too bad.
So yeah, we will do a special recap episode, and you guys will bring us up to speed, and I think that's pretty fair.
Okay.
So this is the recap episode. You guys ready for this?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Next up, we have Chad.
So mine's a physical habit.
Okay.
But for me, the physical and the mental are very, very strongly linked. So it's all about control for me. I value control a lot in my life. And I also am like wildly ambitious. And my problem when it comes to ambition is patience. That I have things that I am setting out to do, and I'm doing everything I can, and my only problem is that there isn't enough time to get there faster. There's not enough hours in the day, there's not enough things I can do right now today to get there faster. And so when it comes to the physical, that gets tricky. So the first habit I set for myself was something that I think I was battling with fear for a while. So I was a fat kid when I grew up. I was like the dorky, like speech and debate, like nerdy kid, like not the guy who had a lot of friends until I decided I'm going to be the guy who has a lot of friends and just went out and made friends. But for me, the physical has been a longer transformation, and I've always been afraid. I've always wanted to be sort of like a bigger, muscular guy, but I think the numbers were scaring me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it my goal rather than being afraid of large numbers on the scale. I'm going to move towards those large numbers. So I'm going to make it my goal to hit 190 on that scale, and then reset my goal there. And so to do that, I have to break out of all the physical things I've been doing, because those things obviously weren't working to get me there, because I had purposefully sort of stuck myself in a rut. So I totally changed up my eating routine, changed up my nutrition routine, and I got there. I got to 190. And that's when a whole other can of worms opened up. So the whole other can of worms for me was, okay, A, now what? And B, I have 2 injuries that in the process of getting to 190 were starting to talk to me again. And so then I had to stop everything that I was doing again, because this is where patience comes in, was, okay, I can keep going and get above 190 if I want to keep getting bigger, and I can maybe get to 195 before this is broken and this is broken, and I can never stay there. So that the goal was not going to be sustainable. And somebody who values control, somebody who values being limitless, being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, like that's not an option for me. But like the progress was so enticing, and like it would be so easy just to like keep getting that external validation and to like keep hitting those numbers and be happy about that. But then like knowing that the success now might not be success in the future, and then having to, once I started on this plan, totally rip it apart and undo it. So now I hit that goal, reset myself on a totally different nutrition plan, and actively spending 90 minutes in the gym working specifically on the weaknesses that are holding me back from overcoming those particular injuries so that I can get even further next time. I have to put the long game for me and for myself and for my sanity ahead of like that short-term validation. And it's hard, and I'm doing it, but it's hard. So that's where I am right now. It's like, so I started one goal and then had to totally flip it based on what the actual ultimate goal is.
Being self-aware is the most powerful thing you can be, because from there, all things become possible.
Yeah.
Once you know your drivers, once you know the things that limit you and hold you back, then there's nothing you can't do. So obviously in all of that, you reveal a great deal of self-awareness, which is great, both the need for patience and hating being patient and wanting the results, and knowing that you may have a temptation to trade what you want most now for what you want most, but it's not giving in to that.
Moment,
exactly, not giving in to the temptation to eat the marshmallow.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really going to serve you very, very well. Where I originally thought you were going to go was that you were going to say that you were letting these injuries hold you back. Which I think is a really universal thing. So I'm going to take a second just to address that, even though I recognize that's not your problem. I think most people stop at something like that because they're not. I want to give you all a gift. From this moment forward, you have the arrogance of belief. So there you go. Now, the reason that I can anoint you with it that easily is because everybody that has it is faking it. So no, I don't think that I could go to the moon tomorrow. But if I chose to set my mind to it, I'm going to have to force that belief, right? You have to have the arrogance of belief in order to make it happen. So if you've got an injury and you really want to be big and you want to add more muscle mass and you tried everything that you can think of and it's still not working, then at that point you have to have the Ray Kurzweil mentality. If you guys know Ray Kurzweil is a futurist, he predicts 2045 that the singularity will happen, and the singularity is the moment where you can upload your consciousness into the cloud and essentially your personality will live forever. But he's already kind of an older guy, so he's working very hard to make sure that he makes it to this singularity. And to give you an idea, something like 84% of all of Ray's future-based predictions have come true. So this isn't some guy, Google hired him as the chief of engineering, I believe. So highly credible guy in terms of whether or not the singularity will happen. And he had to have heart surgery. And when he got diagnosed with a heart defect, he said, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that this is a routine operation, because otherwise I would have had to create an entirely new operation for them to do." And I wanted to stand up and cheer, because that's the only reaction, right? He is going to make it to 2045. He's going to do whatever the hell it's going to take, even if he has to create an entirely new way of operating, if he has to create an artificial heart, whatever he has to do, he's going to do it, right? And at the end of the day, that is the bedrock of Quest. We have the arrogance of belief. We have the arrogance to believe we can do anything we set our minds to without limitation. And like, I put that in the Quest belief system, without limitation, to spur conversations like that. Like, how far would you be willing to go, right? Because to me, the only reason anything you want in life, the only reason that you're not wealthy yet, you don't want it badly enough. You're not making the right decisions in order to get there. Now, the great news is, I'll tell you, the first step is to find something you love that can be monetized and scaled into a very large organization. To steal from Peter Diamandis, the fastest way to make $1 billion is to help 1 billion people. But once you realize that you're in control of everything in your life, good or bad, is a result of the choices you and you alone are making. Once you own that, then you're laughing. Like right now, there's legislation that makes it difficult for us to do things in California. Now, I don't walk around whining about California legislation. I say to myself, it's clearly not important enough for me to go and learn how to Jedi mind trick these guys in order to change the legislation, because I'm not even attempting, right? So I know that people make laws. I know that those laws get passed. I know that somebody gets elected. I know that they convince other people somehow, some way to do something, which means it is humanly possible. So I'm not going to waste time saying that it's somebody else's problem. I'm going to own myself that it's not worth it to me to allocate that kind of time. I'm going to find a different path. But again, recognizing that that's not your problem, that you're fully able to set the marshmallow back down, which will...
Well, not always, though, you know? It's like, I mean, there's a reason that these injuries have hung around for so long, because it's like you wanna get those results now. You wanna eat that marshmallow, and even if that means like, so sometimes I'll be like, I can work through this, when it's like, my problem is, for me, sometimes the positive voice is the negative voice, and like, learning to tell the difference, I'm still not great at, but figuring it out.
That is some very advanced class stuff. I would find myself injuring my trap all the time, because I would feel a little off, but because I had so trained the voice to scream at me to do the push-ups, to you go into the gym every day and you work out and you do your full routine, and that is that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to learn.
So like
to
that one
actually
extra
be
rep
sensible.
means 300 extra reps you don't do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you, sir. All right, Marissa. Tomei.
So that episode was very helpful for me. I'm an eternal worrywart, and I know where it comes back from childhood, and it all makes sense. And it's also helped me achieve a lot of things. But it came to a place where you were staring at the wall, didn't know whether to paint it like purple or green, so then you didn't paint it anything story. Just kind of being propelled into paralysis and not making any decisions because you're worried about making the wrong one, so you don't make any. So what I decided to do was utilize the gratefulness habits in a way that would allow me to be present and say, I'm going to make this decision now and move forward and not worry about what might come. So I started meditating every night, which would quiet my mind before going to bed, and instead of worrying about things all night and waking up in the middle of the night. I was also being more mindful of being grateful to people throughout the day, and writing down 3 things every morning that I was grateful for. And that allowed me to appreciate the moment instead of worrying about the future. So.
And how's that been working?
I am happier. I'm more functional. I can get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time because my mind is clear. I'm not working on A but thinking about B, C, and D in such a way that I can't do A to the best of my ability.
And have you ever tried traditional meditation?
I have.
What do you think?
This was the first time I've actually been successful at it. I had to find out. I was so worried about the book, The Joy of Living. They talk about worrying about meditating properly. And I was that person. I was like, oh, I'm doing this wrong, and man, I suck at meditating. Well, shit. And so the whole time I would sit there and be worrying some more. I found a little method that worked for me that to somebody else might look crazy or seem stupid, but it worked for me to actually quiet my mind. It was a lot of visualization, and just for me, I love the ocean and I love the island, so envisioning water coming in so thoughts can come in, that's cool, acknowledge them, and then just letting them go out just like waves go out. And that has helped me clear my mind every night, and I feel more rested. I'm not grumpy pants in the morning, so yeah.
That's great. That's really powerful, and it's one of the most universal things that you run into with people that have achieved a high level of success is meditation and gratitude. And those I was really surprised by that those would be the things that raise their hand as sort of the universal things that people do. It's very fascinating. We have a lot more control over our mind than we think, and there's a lot of really simple tools and tricks that you can use, and meditation is a very powerful one. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, next up, Kim. I think I know this person.
You do indeed, and I have, in fact, done lots of chores on your behalf.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Eaten a lot of my green beans and drank a lot of orange juice.
I have, yes, for which I was happy to do it.
Debt.
Yes, and I was happy to do it. So when I had a chance to really process through this episode, it was a lot of fun for me. And for me, what stood out was she was singing the song of my people. Right. So I have been the Eeyore. I lived most of my life as the Eeyore, and I am in the process of becoming a Tigger. I don't think I'm quite there. I can play the role pretty well. If you've ever seen me teach, that's definitely the role that I play. But I'm getting there to where it becomes real. It's not just an act. And what I appreciated was this idea of joy, because it's something that I've worked really hard to cultivate. Because if you were to see me 5 years ago, which of course you have, I was a very different person. Charlie Brown with his cloud over his head was probably a pretty apt picture. And I let people, and this was me giving away my power, I let people hold me back. Not because I wasn't talented enough or driven enough, I was, but I let them constrain me. And we've had several conversations since I made the decision to move to Los Angeles and join Quest that is no longer an option. And to do that, I need to recognize when those things start to happen and to move past them, to just accept the fact that this is my life, and I am going to own it. I am, in fact, going to not just talk about changing the world, I am going to change the world, and I'm going to do it by starting with building a tribe. to be thinking about what is joy and how do I cultivate it in my own life and then share it freely because it's easy to give away.
Yeah, I mean, so I obviously have some inside knowledge in this one, and you guys heard me talk about Kim for years before you ever met her, and largely because I've never been closer to a transformation. Obviously, that's some of it, but I really have never witnessed such a beautiful transition of a human being from somebody who is profoundly unhappy to someone who becomes a beaming joy of light. And that's really the easiest way I can explain it. To really witness that transformation and see it be so intentional, like it didn't just accidentally happen, right? She busted her ass, and you know my theory, the body's a reflection of the mind. She set herself down a path of a total physical transformation, and every pound that came off, you could just see her brighten a little bit and become more excited and more passionate about life. And to you know, going back to the push-ups, it's when you show up at the gym every day and you make the right food choices every day, you get to own that, right? You get to own that I wanted to quit 10 minutes ago, but I didn't. And Will Smith has an awesome quote about that, and he says basically one of the ways that you get ahead in life is by running, and the reason that you can get ahead in life by running is because there's always a little voice in your head telling you stop, you're tired, your lungs are burning, and every time you defeat that voice and make them more and more quiet, you realize how much more you really can do. And so I got to see you go through that, and to see you push yourself in a way you've never pushed yourself, and to really find yourself in that process. No, you weren't finding yourself. You were creating yourself. You were creating a new you. And that, to me, I mean, look, there's a whole company around the idea of transformation is specifically for that, is to see human potential realized is like my ultimate high, right? To see somebody, and you have personified Quest for so long that it's so exciting to have you here and really have you inside, because you know when I would tell people, look, I'm fighting for my mom and my sister, like I show up every day killing myself to empower other people to start down that path, and I always went out of my way to say it's her transformation, she gets to own that, right? She's doing the hard work, she's making the right choices, but to have played a small part in that is so beautiful because of to me, a life poorly lived is a life lost. And that is an unimaginable tragedy. So yeah, it's just really, really cool to see. So thank you for having the guts to leave the place you'd lived your entire life and come down here into this crazy madness and hit the ground running and yeah, be doing a killer job. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, next up we've got Jane.
Hello.
Hello.
So there's something you mentioned during that episode. You said ants, and which I think is short for automatic negative thoughts.
Yes.
And just that visual of ants, like, and they're annoying, they can bite you. So I thought of that as that's something that I deal with from time to time. So that really stuck with me. And I tried from that moment on, I've actually always been in the process of improving myself as a person and becoming better. So I was already in the process of trying to get rid of negative thoughts, but it wasn't working. So I started trying to do research on my own and thinking of more tangible ways to really make a change. Without being too specific, I just kept noticing patterns in my life. So I wanted to get rid of them, and I wasn't willing to accept the cards that I was dealt, or that I felt I was dealt. So I just started writing down like any negative thought I had, and then on the other side of the sheet of paper I would write down the positive version of it. And from that moment on, I think in the morning I just started trying to read those positive affirmations and change like my inner dialogue. And I actually did notice a positive change, and I noticed my relationships were changing and they were more positive and better, and the way people were treating me improved. So I think the act of physically doing something actually makes a big difference in pushing yourself forward. So.
Yeah, no question. And oftentimes it's just taking that first step, right? Mm-hmm. So with no expectation of being great at it, just I'm going to actually do it. And in fact, You guys, I'm not wearing it now, but I wear a shirt a lot that says do, right? Just as a reminder to myself, the only thing that really matters are the things you do. Doesn't matter the things you talk about, doesn't matter the things you think, it only matters the things you actually do. So I'm right there with you. That's incredibly powerful. Thank you. Jessica Kelly.
Okay, so a couple of things opened up for me. One's a really tangible example when all three things came into play: the gratitude and the negative talk, as well as the detachment, which was a really big aha for me, detaching yourself from the outcome. But the first thing was gratitude. I feel like growing up, I learned to be grateful because when I would complain, my dad would be like, well, when I was your age, I was pulling bodies out of Vietnam. So I was like, whew, I'm glad I don't have to do that. And I feel like I've lived 3 lives. I've changed my life drastically about 5 or 6 years ago. I had everything that I struggled in my life, and I worked hard, and I had everything that I wanted on paper. And at around 35, I kind of woke up and I was like, wow, everything that I just worked for is a joke. It's like a sandcastle. And so I went back to this gratitude, and I changed my life. I really practiced gratitude. But what I learned through this was that there's a lot of guilt associated with my gratitude. Like, I'm healthy and I have a great family and I have a good support system, but why I'm not doing enough with that. You know, like there was this guilt that I have all of these gifts, but I'm not giving back enough. I don't know my purpose and this and that. And I do have a practice of when I get up in the morning, I think of 5 things that I'm grateful for because it helps me alleviate my anxiety for the day. And it's been maybe about a year that I've been doing that. So it's kind of cool.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so raw and just so relatable. And I think everybody, the imposter syndrome, everybody suffers from that, right? So don't think that every person you look at in a position of power authority is thinking, when are they going to realize that I'm just like a little kid? Like, I'm expecting at any moment someone to come and usher me out and be like, you don't know what you're doing, come on. Like, we're going to have to take you away. It's really powerful for another reason as well. And this is the very reason that I do the show and the very thing that I'm trying to give to people, which is the 3 lessons that you just put into powerful, incredible use, right? Transform the experience for you, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They're completely random. And had we had any other guest and said, now really pay attention to this guest and we're going to see how they transform your life. Any other guest, pick any one of the 35 people that we've had on. And it would have been just as transformative. And they would have given you 3 very different things. Humans can acquire tremendous power. The power that you're acquiring is very simple. It's the wisdom of other people, right? That's why we bring on guests. They all have something that we can learn from. And all I'm trying to do is collect that information. And the trick that I have used in my own life to achieve faster maybe than some of the other people that I was around at the time when I sort of first came into the business world is I let my guard down. So people were throwing rocks at me all the time. Only an idiot would think that. It's so stupid. What are you thinking? And one day, as I was bleeding from my head and slightly dizzy, I looked down at one of the rocks and realized it was a nugget of gold. And I was like, wait a second. This whole time I've been like trying to block them, put shields up, protect myself from all these things that people are throwing at me. What if I let them hit me, which does suck, but then I get to pick up this nugget of gold? And the reason all of this wisdom hurts or people reject it or they make fun of it, they laugh at it, they push it away, is because it challenges something that you believe about yourself that you like. Right? Like, there's nobody in the world more incentivized to hate a book that says passion is a joke than me. I've publicly put myself out there as somebody who really believes in the passion hypothesis, that that's something that you should really do. But man, in the book, there's all this useful stuff. So now I've got an option. I can either expand my vision of what passion is and let this in and see a more intricate way to understand passion's role in my life, to understand passion. Because if passion didn't ring true to me, I would just let it go. But it still rings true, but I can very easily expand how I view it in order to fit this other thing that also feels very true. So, but rather than being the pundit who's like, oh, that book is horseshit, and what does that guy know? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Look what I've done, and this is all passion-based, right? That does not move me forward, right? That does not help me become more powerful. So that notion of picking up those nuggets of gold, of not being afraid to take the sting, of not being afraid to go, wow, this guy knows more than me, right? Like to meet every person you encounter with humility and desperation. Humility and desperation. And the desperation is to learn something new. Like, Chad, you want to talk about being frustrated that you can't do more in the moment? That's why I'm always reading. That's why I read at 3x. That's why whenever I encounter somebody, I do driver dream roulette. If you guys aren't watching my vlog, be sure to tune in. And part of that came from me just wanting to see, is there something that I can learn from these people? I'm stuck in the car, right? And if, let's say, I don't have a book with me or something, who knows what nugget of gold this person has to offer me? And so approaching everyone I meet with humility and desperation. There's something that you can learn from everybody. And when you open your mind up to that and you're not like trying to be cool, like you're trying to learn rather than teach. And dude, look, teaching is fun. I love it. It makes me feel good, gives me a chance to exercise the mental muscles that I've built. Like as you add on physical muscle, there's nothing more fun than bending over and deadlifting a really heavy weight. Like it makes you feel strong and powerful. So I get the desire to teach is the same thing, right? Like you've built these muscles up. But the second you go, I've learned everything that I'm here to learn, I know it all, I've now got this mastered, now everyone needs to just shut up and listen, you will be taken over. Someone will trounce you. Because the person who approaches everyone, and the funny thing is, they'll learn from you and then beat your ass with the knowledge. Because you were too busy trying to think you were cool, rather than approaching every situation with humility and desperation. Now, the desperation is the one thing I can't give you, right? I can't make you desperate. When you were talking, I was thinking Song of My People, right? It resonates with me so much. I actually wanted to scoot my chair closer just because, dude, I know that feeling so well. And I'm not saying that like it's right. I'm certainly not saying it's wrong. For me, it is right and beautiful and amazing. And it fills my life with unending excitement. But dude, when you hear did you say ambition? Did you say extreme ambition? You know what I mean? It's like, wow, man, I just want to be around that. Like creating a tribe. I can't, before we get to the final words, we have one more amazing tale to hear. Jessica, if you would bring us home.
I actually didn't do the challenge.
That's perfect.
I'm sorry.
Tell us what happened.
I thought it was optional. So,
it is. All of life is optional.
Yeah, no, and then I had other priorities like Olympia, and I was really busy, so I didn't get a chance to do it.
Okay, so going back to the agreement that we have that we will be honest. I don't know what you want from life. So, and maybe just like a nice, easy life is where you want to be, and that is a fully respectable way to go about things. But you made a choice, right? So as long as you know that you made a choice to not actively pursue something that could have helped you, then we're good. And so the thing that I would focus on that, which will really give you, it will help you see by juxtaposition different possible mindsets. So my mindset is this. My wife is British. That's true. Let's say she goes to England. She's staying at home with her mom. She's in her bedroom, safe and sound. The doors are locked. The alarm is on. At that moment, a meteorite comes screaming through the atmosphere, crashes into the bedroom and kills her. Whose fault is that? Mine. Why is it my fault? Because I know that there's a company that tracks near-Earth objects. They're trying to find a way to knock them off course. Lasers, planted nuclear explosion, whatever the case may be. I don't know what they're going to end up solving, but I know that I've never written them an encouraging letter. I've never given them a dime of money. I've never called them up to give them my ideas, even though I know they exist. So at the moment that inaction comes back to bite me in the ass, you can be damn sure I'm not going to say that it's somebody else's fault. That was my fault. Now, I think it's a smart move. I'm not saying that to beat myself up. The likelihood of my wife being killed by a meteorite is virtually zero. But there are actually things that are kind of crazy. Like she texts and drives. She'll deny that, but as a passenger in her car, let me assure you, if the car is moving and you are texting, even if it's only going 4 miles an hour, you're texting and driving in my world. Now, that is worth attacking. But even that, I have done nothing about other than stress the relationship with my wife by begging her not to do it. But the point is that in those things that you do, you are making a choice at all times. All of life is optional. Showing up to work is optional. Paying bills is optional. You could give the IRS the finger. Now, they may put you in jail, but that's a choice. You're just saying that's a shitty outcome and I don't want it. But never lose sight of the fact that it's a choice. Walk through this world like a colossus, because you can do anything you want as long as you're willing to pay the price, right? So that's beautiful. That's transformative. It means that literally the exact thing you're doing at that exact moment is exactly what you choose to do. Not doing push-ups. I don't want to do push-ups. I am not going to do a push-up before I go to bed, and I am not going to do a push-up when I wake up in the morning, right? Going back to my dad. It's a beautiful existence because he's not conflicted. My dad is not ambitious. My dad does not have grand things that he's trying to do with his life. He wants to work on cars, work on the house, spend time with his wife and his kids. That's it. That is the sum total of what he wants. He is living in exact accordance with those desires. And because of it, that man is a happy, joyful person. 100%. So it's about being honest about what you want and then acting in accordance with it. If you really wanted to do this challenge and you let being sick stand in the way of you, shame on you. From your perspective, not mine, I don't care, right? I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the work because that's what I want out of my life. But I'm not asking people to live my life, right? So chasing money, don't be ashamed. Just chase it smart. Every day is going to have to pass. So you might as well make the demand that you love what you do in pursuit of the money. Because money's awesome. I get why you enjoy it. Money's powerful. It gives you freedom. It lets you do things you couldn't otherwise do. Money does not need to make you evil. In fact, money doesn't make you evil. Money's a magnifier. Whatever you were before, you'll just be more of that with money. If you were stingy before, you will continue to be stingy. And if you're generous, you'll be generous whether you're broke or not. Right? The people that give the most money are the people in the lowest socioeconomic stratus. It's crazy. So being generous has nothing to do with the amount of money that you have. And being an asshole is not tied to having money. There are good people with money and there's jackasses with money. There's good people without money and there's jackasses without money. Just be honest about what you want to do. Your problem is just that you're making a promise and not keeping it. If you don't want to do push-ups, just say it. I don't fucking want to do push-ups. I want to be lazy. I want to chill. My highest priority is playing Xbox. Rad. I literally don't understand people that can't just own what they want, right? Whatever it is that you want, it's awesome. Whatever it is. As long as you're not stripping other people's rights. God, if I don't say that, someone will put it in the comments. So as long as you're not hurting somebody else, whatever you want to do is fine, right? Whether you want to weave baskets, whether you want to snorkel and smoke crack at the same time, I don't care, right? It's your life to live. As long as you're not forcing me to snorkel and smoke crack, we are all good. But to own that thing that you want, and then if you're ambitious, to own that you're ambitious and build a life around that. And I will leave you with one final thing. Heroes are powerful. Get one. But oh, for the love of God, pick the right one. I have no interest in being the world's greatest father. None. So I don't have kids. If you have interest in being the world's greatest father, don't pick me as your hero, because I will lead you so astray. When I'm knocking at your door at 1:30 in the morning to come into the office to prep, and I'm like all excited, and you're like, what the hell is going on right now? That's a disconnect. That's using somebody that doesn't fit the vision that you have for yourself. So pick somebody that fits the vision of what you're trying to do. It's an awesome way to learn, to acquire the skills that they have. And whatever it is that you want to do, decide whether you want to be great at it or not. I think that happens to be pretty fundamental to the human condition, the desire for mastery. And if you want to get great at it, which will feel good, by the way, it's really amazing getting really good at something. Know that that takes time and disciplined practice. It will not happen by accident. You have to really work your ass off to get good at something, even if it's meditating. You will not start out good, right? You're going to have to practice. Get control of your thoughts. Get control of your emotions. Remember, you can do anything you set your mind to. Guys, I can't thank you enough for taking this seriously. It was absolutely incredible. You shared amazing things that I think a lot of people are going to learn from. I am humbled and truly grateful. Thank you. All right, guys, thanks for spending time with us. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. Man, find your tribe, get around them, get them to be real, talk about what they're really up to. The human experience is enriched that much more with other people. A pleasure shared is a pleasure doubled. I have certainly enjoyed my time with these guys today. Utterly incredible. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Be very careful about who you spend your time with. Thanks for spending your time with us today, guys. Take care. Thank you guys very much. Amazing.